We're going to look at the chart for Osho or Rajneesh. Uh, he was born in December 11, 1931 at 1713 hours, Bhopal, India. If you looked at the eastern horizon when he was born, you'd see that the constellation relating to Taurus rising at 21 degrees. That becomes the most effective point of every house. Any planet that's near 21 degrees has great impact. Um, let's look at how the planets are operating and when the planets are operating. First, we'll look at the strength and the functional nature of each planet. So we know that any Multrikona sign that falls in the 6th, 8th, or the 12th house, its ruler becomes a functional malefic. So you see Libra in the 6th house, ruled by Venus. Venus becomes functional malefic. You see Sagittarius in the 8th house, ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter becomes functional malefic. And you see Aries in the 12th house, ruled by Mars. Mars becomes functional malefic. And the rest of the planets are benefic except Rahu and Ketu, which are functionally malefic for every sign. So let's check out the strength and how the planets are operating. Sun is at 25 degrees, which is close to the most effective point. It is ruling the house of mother, happiness, property, um, childhood, all those things. And it is placed in the house of partnerships and foreign lands, comforts living abroad. So his happiness came through spiritual leadership, property. He had a huge amount of property in Antelope, Oregon, over 90 Rolls Royces, and he, so then Moon is at 22 degrees, also close to the most effective point, ruling the house of self-expression, communication. He It's placed along with four other planets in the house, the 8th house. This is the house of occult research and teachings. So he was a prolific writer, wrote over 100 books, um, and gave lectures and on the occult knowledge. Notice that Moon is afflicted by Venus in that same house. And so Venus, remember, is a functional malefic and brings conflict and controversy to his writings. So he wrote a lot about sex and a lot of things that were not the norm of the time. Mars is at 8 degrees. It's, again, functional malefic. It's ruling this house of enlightenment, foreign lands, imprisonment. So and this is also a house of sexual addiction. So you could say that he gained enlightenment through occult. Now, also, some of his followers were very violent, and so that fits in there. And then the foreign lands that he established, Rajneeshpuram in Antelope, Oregon, um, for over 1,300 followers to establish a commune or utopian society. Mercury is at 13 degrees. Mercury rules this house of educating others through, and it's in this house of occult secrets, so educating others through occult secrets. Jupiter is at 29 degrees. It's a functional malefic, and Jupiter has to do with teaching. It is ruling the house of occult knowledge, again, teaching occult knowledge. Also, he lived, it's very weak, and so he lived outside the norm of regular laws. And so part of that, he got arrested during a Jupiter period for immigration and fraud as he was trying to leave the country, the U.S., and go back to India. So he was deported to India. Venus is at 19 degrees. It's a functional malefic. It's close to the most effective point, so it has strong impact. And it is ruling this house of health, conflict, disputes. So a lot of conflict and disputes. It's again placed in uh, the eighth house of occult and sex. Um, it afflicts this house of fame and wealth. So his fame was very controversial. Um, and also, this is the part of the body that represents thyroid. So he had a lot of thyroid issues, which made his eyes very watery. So many people thought that he was mesmerizing because his eyes were very watery. But it was because of the thyroid. It wasn't a spiritual thing. Saturn is at 20 degrees, 48 degrees, and it is also in this house of occult knowledge and teaching, and it made him a spiritual leader, and also it has to do with foreign lands as well. Rahu and Ketu are at 9 degrees, and they gave him the desire to educate others on spiritual knowledge. And so if we look at when the planets are operating, um, he established Rajneeshpuram in Antelope, Oregon in 1981 during Jupiter period, which is teaching. Actually, he started writing his books when he went into a Jupiter period in 1979. He became quite prolific and established an ashram in Pune, India. And in October 25th of 1985, he was arrested during a Jupiter Mercury, but almost K2 period, K2 representing the house of imprisonment. And then he passed away of a heart attack in January 19th of 1990 during a Jupiter moon period. Moon and sun represent heart. So in his chart, moon was weak. So yeah, he could have benefited from wearing a kavash to strengthen all his benefic planets, and he could have benefited from donating to um, women's organizations, spiritual organizations, and men that are like brothers, um, and listening to chants associated with Venus, Lakshmi chants on Fridays, and Vishnu chants on Wednesdays, and Hanuman chants on Tuesdays. If you're interested in a Vedic astrology reading using transformational Vedic astrology, you can order it under services at vastucreations.com. If you would like to learn transformational Vedic astrology, you can go to AmericanInstituteOfVastu.com. Thank you for listening.